Hey guys, Adrian Racing here, back today with another video. Now today, F1 2021 was released to the public, and I've been looking forward to this day for a very long time. The F1 games are, well, they're one of my favourite sort of chains of games to play over the years, starting in F1 2009, back on the PSP, that cursed first Cody's game, all the way up to even last year, back on Xbox playing F1 2020. And in fact, if you go back a few videos, you'll probably find that was one of my first videos was on F1 2020. But anyway, enough about me. We're all here to talk about F1 2021. So today we're just going to be going into a quick Grand Prix just to see how the game drives, and that's what I'm curious about. Lots of changes for this year, including the new braking point, lots more customization. We've got an esports series. We've got obviously the same, and also two-player career as well is coming this year. We've still got the My Team, we've still got everything that you expect in the F1. But as a sim racer, as a super nerd about this sort of thing, I'm curious about how the game thrives and how it actually feels once you're on the track. Comparing this to something like the RSS Formula Hybrid and places like iRacing as well during this video should be super interesting, and I hope that you find this somewhat informative. So I'm going to shut up and pass over to me on Silverstone Grand Prix circuit just now. Right, so here we are on the grid for our first race in F1 2020. Try and find the optimal RPM, and it's lights out and away we go. Balancing the throttle on the start to get a decent standing start. Oh, slam throttle down a bit too early. Get a lot of wheel spin. Now AI trying to make the move stick into turn one. Oh, we get a collision with Ocon warning, even though he was the one that drove into the back of us there. And then we're stuck behind our teammate Lance Stroll, who is apparently now Scottish. If anyone's seen that interview, it's pretty funny. But back to the game. Through Village we go, and then overtake mode on. Now the first thing, all the ERS modes are back to the same as they were last year, where it's just the overtake mode. That's the only thing you have to worry about. No multi-functional hybrid modes, and in fact, there's no multi-fuel modes either. It's just one fuel mode for the entire race, except a low fuel mode if you really start to run out of fuel near the end of the race. And now up to Stowe corner for the first time. It's going to be a blend of the throttle down to 7th gear. Ooh, that was probably a bit too much speed scrubbed off. Gasly tries for a run around the outside, but he doesn't quite make it stick. And now Maggots and Beckett's one of my favourite corner complexes on the planet. 7th gear, and then down to 6th gear, 5th gear, and then back on the power nice and early. Overtake mode on. Use all the curb on exit. Got to watch the overtake. We don't need to use too much. It's only 5 laps this race, but we can still run out of hybrid quite easily. Into Cops, super fast. 5th gear on the power nice and early. And now into the Vale chicane. Nice and hard on the brakes and then peeling off of them. A little bit of understeer on the transition there. Baseline setup. No setup changes made at all to this car. And there is the first lap in F1 2021. And what's my sort of first impressions? Well, the game just feels a lot more refined and a lot more... It seems a lot more intuitive to what I would expect an F1 car to be. In the old F1 games, I've noticed that you can get on the power a bit too much and it will just spin. There'll be no coming back from it, no saving it. You'd spin up the wheels, lock up the brakes at every sort of opportunity, basically, if you were slightly over on the brakes. And it just didn't feel like it made sense. Comparing that to something like driving the RSS Formula Hybrid in the Assetto Corsa, it didn't really make much sense. But this is an improvement. You can slam the throttle, not too much. If you sort of hit the throttle too hard, it will spin up the wheels. But if you're progressive and just sort of neat on the throttle, it won't just spin the wheels randomly like it did in the older game. Same with locking up. I'm noticing you can hit the brakes hard like you would expect to, and then as you peel off the brake pressure, it doesn't tend to lock up like it did on the old games. Also, when you're catching slides and sort of the car's having moments, it's really correctable, and you can sort of take examples from other sims where it's sort of you're having a moment and then you can catch it back. Before it wasn't quite possible to do that, but now it's so much nicer and just feels a lot more consistent with other simulators, which is a definite bonus for this game. And now already on to lap 3, over halfway through this race, to try and catch up to Stroll up ahead. Another thing, the AI at the start there, it didn't seem as though they just sort of drove into you. One of my sort of gripes with the older games AI was the fact that they just sort of drove without any care in the world for where you were on the track. They just seemed to take their normal line and race each other and just sort of forget about you as the player. This time it seems as though they make corrections based on where you are, and you can actually feel like you can have a decent race with them as well. I haven't really had too much time to test this out, but hopefully we can here if we get a nice run and stroll, which we don't. We catch the grass.
Okay, don't worry about the spin. Let's just get back up to speed. Careful on the next few corners, your rears might be a bit hot.
That's lost us a bit of time, but we might actually have a little battle here with Schumacher now. Got to watch those rear tyres. All flat through Cox, even with the overheated tyres. Luckily it wasn't too much of a spin. Still getting up to speed with this game. Just sort of caught the gravel there, which is, well, it's good. It shows that if you touch the grass whilst trying to stick down 1,000 horsepower, it generally doesn't go well. Then we're going to watch him Schumacher behind in the Haas. See if we can try and defend this position into here. Oh, please turn. Thank you very much. Now, one other thing which I did see about in the introduction to the game was a new damage model, which I haven't actually had time to test out yet. But it looks like finally we've got rear wing damage back to the game. We have side pod damage as well, which apparently reduces drag, so you lose top speed, you lose downforce in the corners, as you would expect. These cars are super sensitive to damage in real life. I mean, look at Hamilton in Austria, losing whatever it was, half a second a lap just from hitting a curb wrong. And there, just there, you see me just snap the wheel back. You couldn't really do that in the older games, but now you definitely can, and it's so much more nicer just to have that experience of what I would do in other sims. I can transfer now to F1. I don't have to drive F1 a certain way, which doesn't really make any sense. And I'm finding myself just enjoying this game a lot more, and I'm super excited to get to play more and more of this. And let's see if we can try and get a decent lap in here, try and catch up to the AI ahead. Overtake mode on, small lift, turn overtake mode off again, just so we can try and save the hybrid before the last lap. Sainz is, what, 1.6 seconds ahead, but he's fighting with Leclerc. I love downforce through Maggots and Beckett's there, even if my lines were pretty shoddy that lap through. We lost a little bit of time, but we can gain that back, no problem. But yeah, I'm just super enjoying driving this game. I do have a few gripes with the game though. THRUSTMASTER wheel owners, you'll probably already know this if you've tried to play the game, that there is a glitch where you have no force feedback. I tried everything, updating firmware, everything to try and get it to work. Eventually, it turns out you have to launch the game from a file. I'll put the root file path in the description below if anyone has having issues with THRUSTMASTER wheels. You've basically just got to launch it through there. That's a bit better into Village, actually hitting the apex for once as well. I've got to train myself to really slam the throttle if you can in this game. You don't have to be... Before I noticed you couldn't really get into the throttle until you're in 4th gear, even 5th gear. This time, it sort of makes sense. I mean, those tyres on the back are massive, and especially on these soft compound tyres, it's not going to be too much trouble to get the power down. Trying to catch the grass this time, very nice indeed. Sort of losing time a bit now. Might have to turn the AI down a bit for when we start actually doing some competitive single-player racing. Also, a few new modes for this year. We've got the new story mode, the Breaking Point storyline, which I'm sort of avoiding spoilers for, and actually looking forward to actually doing my own video series on it. Hopefully that's going to be a weekly thing. Should be pretty fun. Schumacher's keeping with us behind. Got to watch that into this last corner. In fact, we're on the last lap already. Time flies by when you're having fun, they say. Especially when you're spinning out of corners. That always flies by when you're having fun. Sergio Perez with the fastest lap. And it's Max Verstappen who comes across the win. Will that be happening this weekend at Silverstone? And will we see the sprint race having fun? But that's no consequence. That's our first race here in F1 2020. First impressions, very nice. I'm super enjoying this, to be honest. Just feels like a progression on the older games. No game-changing physics updates. It's not a set of Corsa. It's not iRacing. It's sort of on par, but decent enough. You've got to remember this game is designed for controllers and wheels. It can't be a super hardcore simulator when you're trying to appeal to the masses. And to be honest, it does everything I would want. It works on a wheel. The force feedback is decent. Get it working. But what can I say? Thank you, Cody's. Well worth it, I think. and it seems as though they've put quite a lot of effort in, and I'm curious to see where the game goes. Apparently the new tracks, which aren't currently in the game, the new tracks for the season, such as Portimao, Imola, the Jeddah Street Circuit, they will be coming in a future update.
Now, let's discuss, Ant. Who would you say is a
Please, Crofty, be quiet. I'm trying to talk here. But yeah, they should still be coming in a future update, so I'm curious to see how they come out. The tracks are still need a bit of work. I haven't tested Spa yet, which was one of the more cursed tracks from the older games, but I'm curious to see. Apparently also the curbs in tracks such as Monza, Singapore, really unsettle the car. It doesn't feel as though the cars are sort of floppy. You can't just attack the curbs like you could in the old game and sort of go over them. They will bite you if you're not careful. But anyway, I hope you found this video somewhat informative. I'm going to be doing a video series on the Breaking Point, which you can see here, taking on the role of Aiden Jackson in the F1 2020 season. And also over on my Twitch, I'll be streaming my team career mode for Monday night, which should be great. Overall, I would definitely say, if you liked F1 2020, you'll love F1 2021. That's it, basically. Quick review of the game. Brilliant, to be honest. I can't really... obviously, there's a few errors with it, and they need to sort this THRUSTMASTER force feedback fix. Definitely. And there's a few other patches, apparently, game crashing, but it's Cody's, so I'm sure they'll sort it out. But anyway, all that's left for me now to say is thank you very much for watching. If you have made it to this point, I'd really appreciate if you hit that subscribe button. Like if you want to as well. And follow me on Twitch. Just link is down below. Yeah. Pretty cool. I'd give F1 2021 so far 7 out of 10. Hoping to make that 10 out of 10 once we actually start getting into the game properly. But anyway, have a really awesome rest of your day. And yeah, see you all next time.